Now, Vivian, as a chef, you work a lot with local farmers for what you use. What kind of relationship do you have? What are you seeing about those farmers? And are you sort of almost like a go-between almost between your patrons and the farmers? Are they asking questions? I mean, what is that like, that kind of a relationship?
Well, that's one of the reasons I like to work with local farmers is because of the relationship I have with them. I can, tell them how big I want the beet to be, and do I want the greens, and how big do I want the greens to be, and do I want the pig with the head or the pig without the head this week? So that relationship allows me great flexibility as a chef, and I feel like when you have a relationship like that, it can make the farm to restaurant table scenario work. Are my customers necessarily asking those questions? Not really.
Do they talk about where the farm or where the produce or where the meat comes from or anything? Are they asking more questions than they used to?
Yes. There's a lot of these small farms in our community, and people are curious about where we get these things and things like that. But I don't think that it's really why people come to our restaurant. No, I'm not fielding a lot of questions in that way. I wish I could.
And if you all, again, have any questions, please feel free to write those down on the note cards and pass those to the end of the rows. And again, we'll try to get to, we have a lot, actually, try to get those as much as possible. We've talked all today about all the different choices that consumers have and really the choices that farmers have as well. Casey, tell us about what choices you have about as far as your farming choices and why you made those.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the choices is such a key element of this, and I think it's important for folks to understand that the industry that I'm involved with, we can call it the local food movement or whatever, at its core element is a group of people, consumers, farmers, and other agribusinesses that are desire to create a kind of a parallel food system in which choice is the ultimate factor. And these are independent farmers who can make decisions on their farms on a day-to-day basis. It's their decision only to meet a need in the marketplace. And I think that when we go into a grocery store, we see all these different food choices, but what we really see are lots of different brands of foods. And there's been a massive consolidation in agriculture over the last 30 years where fewer and fewer companies create those products for us. So the question of choice is debatable, I think. And so I think what the local food movement brings is possibly maybe a little bit of a truer choice where you can go to your farmer's market, or you can be a neighbor with your farmer, and whether it's going to Bo's peach stand, or having a wedding on the farm of the Porters, or going and seeing Alex at a farmer's market, you are that best third-party certifier as the consumer. And that takes time, and sometimes it takes money to do that, and consumers, I think, just have to decide what's a priority. I don't often buy the charge that local foods are for elite people or people who just happen to have the money. Our customers we see come from all sorts of different socioeconomic backgrounds. The difference is that they have decided somewhere along the way that they are going to take something out of their budgets, family budgets, somewhere else, and replace that with possibly spending more on a pork chop that comes from my farm than one that goes from the grocery store. Whatever those reasons are, they're valid reasons, and again, the choice element is so critical to this.
And speaking of NC Choices, by the way, what is that exactly? What's the focus?
Yeah, NC Choices is a program of the Center for Environmental Farming Systems, based at NC State, but it's a partnership with the two land-grant colleges and NCDA and Cooperative Extension. And NC Choices just really focuses down on the local and niche meat supply chain. So we engage the audiences and do technical assistance from the producer through the inspected meat processor and on to the buyer. So we may work on one day with a farmer who's interested in finding someone like Vivian, and then there's this processing entity that they have to both navigate, and we kind of help lubricate that supply chain. Again, it's kind of an alternate supply chain to the bigger meat industry, and sometimes it works well and sometimes it doesn't. And what we try to do is to help foster those relationships and provide all the assistance needed to make it work better for everybody. That's the core of NC Choice's work.
And what about as far as the choices of what you decided to produce on your farm? What sort of shaped your choices for what you produce?
I actually was born on a dairy farm, but my daddy quit milking cows when I was at a very young age. So I was raised on that farm, which is not the same farm we're on now, but I actually went into public work. I was a welder and a pipe fitter, general contractor, built houses for a number of years. Always had the dream and the passion to farm full time. Had the cattle, the beef cattle, was building a beef cattle herd, had the opportunity to look into the hog business with one of the integrators was coming into more of the western part, central part of North Carolina. Went to a few meetings. My wife asked me, when are you going to quit going to these meetings? I said, when I find a reason not to. I said, I'm interested in it when I find a reason not to. Well, we ended up building that hog operation in 1992. I already had 2 poultry houses. Now we have a total of 8. So it just kind of evolved as far as it was something that I love to do, looking for the future. My children are not on the farm full time. They all live on the farm. They're raising their families on the farm, but they do not work as their full-time job. They're all very much involved. But it just evolved into that, and it's just something that I love to do. And so it's just, and we are very blessed to have been able to accomplish what we have accomplished.
I can tell you're passionate about it. You love what you do. Dr. Brown, when it comes to farming in North Carolina, do you see more conventional, or do you see some alternative, or can you mix sort of the practices of farming as far as modern versus conventional or traditional? And I mean, do you see a mix of that, or is it all or one?
We do have it is really a mix in North Carolina. Now, in terms of cash farm receipts, it is pretty much, most of it comes from commercial. In fact, if you look at our structure of farms, we have around 50,000 farms in North Carolina. Around 4,000 of those have sales greater than $500,000, and USDA would say they're large farms, even though large farms are typically much bigger than that. Those 4,000 farms produce about over 50% of the ag production in the state. The rest of the farms are part-time farms or small farms, and a lot of those part-time farmers invest a lot of their money each year. You know, they do it because they want to do it. They may be lifestyle farms or retirement farms. And then we now have this growing sector of local food, which is actually growing, again, small farms that are actually doing it full time. We see more and more small farms who are able to do that full time as part of their living, and it is because there is a sector of society who is willing to pay a little bit more for their food, and they want that direct knowledge of the farmer. And one of the things I think that Local Foods has done for agriculture is make people aware of who's producing their food. And even when you go back towards conventional agriculture, we see that for one reason, but also in terms of regulation and food safety, we see a much greater accountability and traceability in both produce and even now in livestock back to the farm level. So we see probably the highest level of accountability at all levels of farming that we've ever seen, and I think that increases every year, in fact. So.
Robin, when speaking to this accountability that the farmers have, do you think, and that kind of goes to the environmental practices as well, do you think consumers are considering the environmental practices of farmers as well, maybe when they're making choices? Do you think that's going through their mind as well?
I think for some consumers, yes, I think it does go through their minds, and it may be another thing that causes some folks to focus on products from smaller farms, which they often view as being more environmentally responsible just because of scale, whether there's any particular reason for that conclusion or not. But I do think it goes through people's minds, and they like to know that the folks that they're dealing with and buying their food from are responsible. And I think that's something that certainly is to the advantage of the folks who try to do a good job, are very responsible with handling their animals and their waste management systems. You want to have that reputation. That's a good place to be.
Now, Dr. Tacker, coming from NC State, what is your kind of view on today's farmers? Are they doing a good job in your mind? Are they managing animal welfare in a good way? Are they doing?
Yes,
they're doing their job?
yes. I think animal welfare is top priority for the farmers that I know. It's very, very important to them. They're educated, they're passionate, they're always looking for new information in this area. It's again, a lot of misconceptions are there about farmers, but today's farmer is a smart person, a smart individual. He or she knows what's best for the animal and how to take care of it. Like I said, they're always asking me for more information in this area, and like I said, very inquisitive, like to get new information. Again, the animal welfare for them is absolutely top priority.
Now, you have 2 young children. Do you have any hesitation with farming practices these days about feeding any food, meat, whatever, milk, anything, when it comes to antibiotics or the use of hormone? I mean, do you have any?
No, I got a
problems with that?
6-year-old and a 4-year-old, and no, none at all. I mean, I just go whatever they like to eat and go for it.
And you're one of the big brain guys at NC State, so that's good to know.